Hello, and welcome to Comics Covered. This is the inaugural episode for the week of November 15th, 2017. Here we are. Our podcast has birthed itself into the world.
Isn't that kind of impossible, or does that happen in comics a lot too?
It's very common, sentient podcasts that worm themselves into people's ears. Here on Comics Cover, we talk about comic books and the world around them, the comics industry, comics, movies, TV, games, whatever kind of springs from that area of the world. So we're also, I think, prone to some long, irrelevant, but hopefully kind of entertaining tangents. So, just keep yourself braced if those happen. I'm Doug. I'm probably like the closest thing to a comics veteran we've got. For example, I know who Buona Beast is.
And I'm Jack. I'm fairly new to comics. Basically that means I haven't been reading it for my entire life. I've basically just started to read it, and I don't know a lot of it, and I especially do not know who Buona Beast is. I didn't cheat and look it up, Doug.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried you were gonna look up who that was before we started here. Do you have any kind of inkling, any kind of guess as to like any of the details about who Buona Beast is?
Well, I want to know the publisher, the universe he's a part of, or she. Okay. Who knows?
Okay. Do you have a guess? Who do you think would have published a character named Buona
DC.
Beast? Yes, you are correct. That is
cool. It was specifically DC, not like Vertigo or stuff like that.
It did. He did come from Animal Man, or no? Actually, I'm not 100% sure if that's where he originated.
That's why Doug said he's the closest to the comics veteran. By the way, ladies and gentlemen,
he first appears in Showcase number 66, which I'm only looking this up for a backup here. I'm not lying. I do know who this is.
Okay,
but
here we go. Let's see origin story here. Buona Beast.
So Buona Beast is a character.
Whoa. I'm guessing still, aren't I?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
I need to guess the origin story of this character in DC.
Okay, yes, guess the entire origin story. I eagerly await you getting every detail correct.
Okay, Buona Beast. One day when regular named white male is walking through the jungles of the Amazon, he comes across an amulet of the beast tribe, Shalopi. And this stone amulet he breaks. And because he broke it and he's in the vicinity, he is granted special powers that allow him super strength. Not super strength, but like kind of enhanced strength. And I don't know, he can eat whatever he wants. He can digest these things like a bird or goat. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm going off the wall. DC is kind of the crazy, gods.
Where did you say he's from?
Amazon.
Okay.
Oh shoot! Okay. I forgot. That's Wonder Woman in this universe. So I don't know if they'd do that, but go ahead.
Wonder Woman's not from the Amazon. Anyways, okay. But Buona Beast, you got kind of the vibe of him. But his real name is Mike Maxwell, and he got his powers from a combination of drinking some magical water and also from beating a giant red gorilla, I think, and getting his helmet. And the combination of these things gave him the ability to telepathically control animals, and also to combine them into a single beast, also under his control.
So he basically has the power to illegally make hybrid animals, like do illegal experiments on animals, kind of thing.
But with just like his superpowers, though.
Okay,
Jeez.
So okay, that's actually. I mean, I actually kind of like that controlling animals.
Yeah, he's apparently not from this, but he has a cool arc or two in Grant Morrison's run on Animal Man, which is great.
Well, of course, it's a great run with Grant Morrison.
All right. That's enough Buona Beast talk. I know everyone came in here for the hot Wannabeast takes.
Well,
Everyone's favorite. How was your week, Jack?
it's really good. It take a left turn because okay, so I just want a quick discussion. So Wonder Woman is not from like the Amazon. The Amazons aren't from the Amazon. They just call themselves the Amazons because of
It. I mean, in the DC universe, they are. I mean, well, Amazons, if I'm not mistaken, are like a classic Greek thing. The idea of them. I don't know if that name Amazons came from that or not. I'm not sure. I'm not sure like the history of that word, but they're from an island in DC Comics called Themyscira.
I knew that. I knew that. For some reason.
So they are not from the Amazon.
Oh. I didn't know Themyscira was an island. I guess I always imagined that it was a part of like the Amazon forest.
But how was your week, Jack?
It's good. Yeah. The week is fun. What is it? I saw a movie yesterday called Killing of the Sacred Deer, which was fun. Not a comics movie.
Yep. The Killing of a Sacred Deer. It's the new movie from Yorgos Lanthimos, who directed The Lobster last year. Also starring Colin Farrell. This new movie, Colin Farrell and Nicole Kidman, and. Yeah, we don't need to get into a whole thing about it, but it was so good. Very good movie.
It was really terrifying and like just so hard to not watch. Well, it's so hard. Yeah. It's just great.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Just like the best kind of uncomfortable and painful. And if you like really weird, surreal, upsetting indie movies, check that one out.
I mean, that's really what horror movies should be, I think, in my day. But that's not really the discussion right now. But I mean, I just think it's the modern.
Speaking of which, I also binge watched Mindhunter because I was homesick a bunch. The new Netflix
You're sick?
series. I had to stay home from work a couple days this week. But on the plus side, I watched all of Mindhunter, which is a great new Netflix series.
I wasn't a big fan. Because Jonathan Groff, everybody. I was always a theater guy and musicals and stuff like that. So I know Jonathan Groff from when he was in Spring Awakening and showed his butt on stage.
Is that someone who's in Mindhunter? I don't know the names of anyone.
Jonathan Groff is like the main young dude, young detective guy.
I was trying to place what I know him from.
Yeah, I think he's better on stage, honestly, because I watched a little bit of the Mindhunter, and I don't know. I need to watch more of it because we didn't have time, but I was kind of turned off by the way he plays on the screen. I don't know. It's just weird.
He's very good. He's very well cast, I'd say, in this. Yeah, it's really good. It's really fucked up. Good time to mention language warning. We're probably gonna swear.
Oh yeah, I literally today I was talking to Samantha. That's my girlfriend for everybody. And I just. What was I talking about? It was something that I could not control myself. And I swear, it's every single time there's a child around is when I decide to loudly curse. So, yeah, it's not going to be taken care of.
This is something I have noticed with you.
With me
cool.
Specifically? I thought that was something like everybody does. I don't know.
I always try to swear my most around small children. I get them ready for the world.
Okay, in any
Jack.
case. What?
How about comics?
Yes.
Let's talk about the comics.
Let's do that. We have to
on our first episode where we're getting people used to the show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the topic.
Let's cover comics.
They probably came in thinking we would.
Yeah.
So let's list off our stack for the week. We're not going to talk about all of these books, but just to keep everyone kind of on top of what we're all reading, let's list off what we're reading. My stack for the week I read these usually in order of kind of a mix of excitement / interest / like if there was a big cliffhanger or something in the last issue I want to follow up on. I read these first to last: Doctor Strange, the new run, Batman, The Wild Storm, Superman, Black Science, Descender, and East of West. How about you, Jack?
I had a small pull. Is that the right term? Small pull?
If they were in your poll, then that is the correct term.
Oh, okay. Well, in any case, I had a small poll because I don't know, it's just a small week. I had literally 9 of these last week, but I don't know. I had this Dark Knight's Metal tie-in, The Batman Who Laughs, which I think should be called The Bat Who Laughs, because I think it rolls off.
A little bit of a mouthful.
Better, right? It should be The Bat Who Laughs, because it's the man who laughs. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
In any case. And then Doctor Strange I share with you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. So
Spoiler.
we only got one book that we shared this week. So Doctor Strange number 381. We're probably going to talk a little bit of details about this. So spoiler warning. We're probably gonna spoil some stuff in this book. But so this was your first Doctor Strange book, wasn't it?
It is. The only time I've known Doctor Strange is from the movie, which I liked. It was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was really excited to read this because I don't know. It's for me. You know, a lot of these introductions have been through these Marvel movies, so it's interesting. I really want to see like why they, you know, decided to include them in the universe, how they are portrayed in the comics compared to there, and you know, it was just really exciting to me, especially since it also included Loki, who I'm aware of as well,
which was surprisingly large part of this book. I know he was on the cover, and I kind of knew the basic premise of this book, but I was surprised that there's pretty much no Doctor Strange in this.
Well, until the end, the big reveal.
Until the very, very end. Which I actually forgot about between reading this and now.
Really? That's great.
Which is a fascinating kind of point for you to jump into this. But I think, honestly, a really interesting way for them to start a new series. Like, because there's been, like, this is all new information. Like, nothing has led into this in terms of again, spoiler warning, we jump into this series and we slowly become aware that Loki is in fact now the Sorcerer Supreme of the Marvel Universe.
Okay, because I was asking you this the other day, like whether Doctor Strange, because of this pain thing that you were talking about, the payments or whatever that Loki's
Mr. Misery and the
like why
the cost of magic.
He is like, you know, the guy in this Sorcerer Supreme thing, and they're talking about it, how it's just this like competition that he loses. Is that a part of the story before this? Like, do we see? Did they portray him losing it? They just
Again, this is all new information. This happened between books, in some form.
Okay.
Well,
from the past, do you know? Like...
You know, there actually were a few issues between the last real run of Doctor Strange and this that I didn't actually read. I could actually be 100% wrong. Maybe they did set this up. Maybe Loki did, but I didn't read them because I was a really big fan of Jason Aaron, who wrote the last run of Doctor Strange, and when he stopped writing it, I stopped reading them, and they had a whole bunch of fill-in issues by random writers and artists between then and now, which is the first new real run again since he left. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, the writing in this seems to me like they're expecting no one to know
anything,
whether they addressed it or not. Outside of this issue, they're kind of setting it up in a way that you're supposed to be surprised by this.
Okay. And then, also, but you did, like, do you know anything about this competition, what it entails and anything?
Nope.
Not at all. So that's crazy that they would just,
as far as I know, this is all new information.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's nuts. And I just really like that it starts, you know, with neither person as the focus, and then we get this full page, you know, look
reveal
at Loki. Like, I don't know if he's battling all these people or if he's just
it looks like he's in another magical realm of some kind
of mad with power sort of thing.
I think this weird spider lady was in the last run of Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange made out with her. I don't remember. It was really random. But then they're in the bar with no doors, which was a great invention from the last series, which is this secret bar in New York where all of the mystical heroes of the Marvel Universe kind of get together and drink and relax.
Okay, so that's a thing. And this is the Scarlet Witch, right?
Yep, this is Scarlet Witch. And this guy, his name is, I believe, Count Chaos. They say his name, yeah, Count Chaos, spelled Kaoz.
Oh, yeah.
This guy with the beard.
Oh my god, I totally didn't read it like I was like, what's cows? I literally seriously.
Count Chaos. Yeah, there's a bunch of these characters who just appear in the panels are either appeared in or are inventions of the last run of Doctor Strange by Jason Aaron.
So do you know everybody that's pictured in this scene? Like there's a panel.
I know the names of a few of them.
Who's this guy with the bandages on his head, for example?
I have absolutely no idea who that is.
He's a little like Dr. Manhattan symbol on his forehead.
Yeah, he's got some weird symbol. He looks cool. Looks like a Invisible Man / mummy thing. I don't know. He might have appeared.
Oh, and Floating Head Guy. I want to know who Floating Head Guy is.
Don't remember what his name is. He also appeared in Jason Aaron's run. He's the proprietor of this bar.
Oh, okay.
Whatever his name is. He's cool. I love that he literally is holding a shotgun. This floating head in a jar is holding a shotgun on the next page. In this page where everything turns green and Loki kind of freaks out at Count Chaos.
Hey, he's got a 10 bar, you know?
Yeah, it's just like he holds things and they just kind of float next to his floating head. Mm-hmm. And he I assume he's like pumping this shotgun and saying like, get out of my bar. Yeah, he says, hey.
God.
Yeah, he said, yeah, get out of my bar now, he says as he holds the shotgun. It's wonderful. Very wonderful.
It's great.
Loki teleports them all out.
So he teleports them into like New York City kind of thing?
Wait. Yeah, Loki says that because he says, what bar? And then everyone's surprised and he says, I didn't want to do this.
I love that he gets...
also, Loki is texting, which is wonderful. Love it. Love the idea of Loki with a cell phone texting. Like, that's great.
Not even just regular texting.
He's texting Zelma.
He's like emotional texting. Like he's like teenage girl texting. Like, oh no, what's wrong?
I don't know that I've ever got this much like Loki as a human, as like a kind of a more emotive character in comics before.
Yeah.
He's usually just kind of like sinister villain character. But he's texting Zelma Stanton, who's an invention of Jason Aaron's run on Doctor Strange, the last run in which Wong quits and she comes on as Doctor Strange's assistant. Stephen Strange, not Loki. We got Jane Foster Thor shows up,
which still really interest is a strong word. It's weird to me that she's just Thor when Thor is like a person.
It's a silly weird thing. Like I have no problem with her being the mantle of what Thor is. It's always just funny to think about the fact that she is going by this man's name.
Yeah.
But she does. But like they have made a thing of it in the past that whoever so wields the hammer has the power of Thor, so like it makes sense in a sense, but
I guess so. But then as you talk about him being humanized here, and then I love that Jane, Thor. Like, should we just say Thor or Jane Foster? I guess you can say both.
She's Thor. Whatever. She's Thor.
I love this. Dost thou ever tire of thine own bullshit?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. That's actually a thing that like. When she puts on the mantle of Thor, she talks in this like Shakespearean kind of talk, but then in her like thought bubbles and stuff, she is like talking in normal voice, and it's a weird like translation thing that somehow the mantle of Thor is doing for her, because that's not how she talks. She's just a person from Earth. And they use that to kind of some comedic effect.
Yeah. Okay. But then they go over here, and I was actually going to ask about this too, because now this is Doctor Strange. Obviously, does Doctor Strange work? Because I know all these things now. The Frost Giants I know from Thor's first movie. I know of Malekith, who they talk about here, because that was Christopher Eccleston in that movie. But like, does Doctor Strange behave with like? Does he work with? Not work with. That's a bad thing. Does he like? Do his stories counter a lot of Asgardian sort of style things, or is this just because it's kind of centered around Loki and him and Thor right now?
I mean, I think Asgardian stuff is in this issue tons because of Loki.
Yeah.
And he's kind of the focus of this issue. But I mean, he interfaces with Asgardian stuff as much as he interfaces with, I'd say, any other mystical character in the MCU.
Okay.
Like Scarlet Witch, any of these other mystical characters. Speaking of which, next page we get Scarlet Witch finally has tracked down Doctor Strange, and he is, surprise, as this talking dog points out, basically become Dr. Dolittle and is working as a veterinarian. Again, I'm not sure if they I think that's a reveal in this. I'm not sure if they set up Loki becoming the Sorcerer Supreme in something else or not, but like this is definitely new information, and I have no idea why he's doing this, but I very much look forward to more of Stephen Strange being a veterinarian who, I don't know if this dog can talk or if he can talk to animals.
If it was just this dog, I'd be so happy to have just a dog going around. And is it a basset hound? Is that what they're called?
Looks like a basset hound, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, always up for a talking basset hound. He calls Stephen Strange Doc. It's great. But he's running some sort of veterinarian clinic, which is bizarre and bonkers, and I love it. And I assume this series is either going to be about Doctor Strange moving on from the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme and Loki kind of coming into it, or it's going to be about Doctor Strange winning back the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. I assume that's the long-term goal here. But that all sounds great.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm definitely gonna keep on that one.
Yeah, sure. Really interesting intro point, I think, to that character and series. Written by Donny Cates, with art by Gabriel Hernandez Walta from The Vision. Donny Cates wrote one of my favorite Image series from the last year or two here, God Country, which is fantastic. I highly recommend it if anyone wants to check that out. Which was what kind of turned me onto this. He got signed at I'm not sure if he made a deal with them or not, but he's writing a bunch of books for them now. Donny Cates.
Marvel.
And Gabriel Hernandez Walta on The Vision, impeccable. Love it. Yeah. Great art. So yeah, you're gonna stick with that, I take it?
Yes, no, definitely.
Yeah, awesome, cool. So I also wanted to that was our shared book for the week. So we're probably gonna talk a little bit less spoilers from here on out. But I wanted to quickly call out Batman number 35 by Tom King and Joelle Jones on art. This arc has been a little bit slow, kind of waiting for the next kind of big thing to happen.
Oh. What was the last big thing to happen in this series?
I mean, do you want me to spoil the big thing that's happening with Batman right now, or do you want to read it at some point?
I'll leave that up to you. What do you think?
Batman and Catwoman are engaged.
Yeah.
He proposed a while back in this series, and they are currently... I did just say we weren't going to do as much spoilers, didn't I? Apologies if anyone didn't want to know that.
Is that more...
I won't spoil the events of the issue, but they have a really good conversation kind of regarding that specifically in this issue between Dick Grayson and Damian, where they kind of talk about why they think... Like, they talk about kind of what Batman's relationship, Bruce Wayne's relationship to happiness is in his life. And they bring up some really interesting points that I don't think I've ever heard anyone really address with Batman, because it's always about like how Batman always has this, like, he's like determined to be miserable kind of all the time is always kind of the thing with him. And a lot of people have addressed that, and like why Batman wants to be this sad character, but no one ever really addresses what his specific relationship to being happy is, and maybe why he doesn't want to be happy. And they talk about how like it has to do with his selflessness and like giving himself that moment to not be consumed by his pain and to like give in to something like love, like marriage, is something that like is so foreign to him and feels selfish to him, that like he doesn't give himself that, and it's I really appreciated that. And while this actual arc right now that feels like kind of a transitional arc between big events isn't super engaging, like they have been doing some really interesting character work in the fringes, and I just wanted to call that out.
Okay, wait, now I want to, like, when you're reading this, when you read, Batman, does he propose? How do they handle that sort of, should I not ask these specific questions? I don't know.
Yeah, we don't need to like spoil exactly how it happens, but it happened in like it's all handled in the comic,
Yeah, you don't feel cringy with that or anything. I don't know.
No, I think it was done. It was done really well.
Okay.
Like the lead up to it is like it made perfect sense when it happened in the context of the story they were telling.
Interesting. Because I loved Hush when I was reading it. I've read Hush before, and I liked Hush a lot. But I don't know, there's something that just feels inherently wrong about them being like lovey-dovey and like they can flirt and stuff like that, but I just feel like weird about them like talking about relationship stuff and everything like that. I don't know.
But that's kind of what's interesting about the approach they seem to be taking with this particular instance of it, because they're kind of, that seems to be the point of what they're tackling with it, is kind of how it doesn't feel natural for this character to be married. The whole kind of thing with it is how kind of shocked everyone is, and like, what is he doing? Like, what's happening? Like, why is he doing this? And like, everyone's kind of reactions to it, and what does that mean if Batman is happy and could have the potential to like have this bit of lightness in his life. And I think they're handling that bit of it really, really well, and it's really interesting. And I don't know if it's a thing that's going to stick around forever, but like they're doing some really interesting character work with it.
Interesting. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
cool. And then you this week read The Batman Who Laughs.
Yeah.
And I am really curious to hear about that. You've been reading all of these.
I've read literally every single one, because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't understand, I guess, the business side of this. I've read all of these things about each of the Dark Knights. They've had Dawnbreaker, which was probably the worst one, Red Death, Murder Machine, the Merciless, Devastator, all of these people. They go into the backstories of how he became.
Maybe we'll take a second and step back. Like, for anyone who is living under a rock, Dark Knight's Metal is a big DC event going on right now. That is dealing with Batman discovering the dark multiverse, and the DC universe is being invaded by all these evil kind of versions of Batman from different dimensions.
They write it as
all these,
they're from Earth negative, like 22, negative 52.
Yeah, normally the Earths in the DC multiverse are numbered. There are 52 Earths.
Yeah.
But they're from the dark multiverse.
Yeah.
So I guess they're negative. I hadn't actually heard that. That's kind of hilarious.
That's it. Yeah.
It just reminds me of that moment in Dark Knight's Metal where he literally has a map of all the maps, and he says, "But what about this?" And he flips
it over
the map, and it's black.
Yeah.
It's just so absurdly on the nose, but I loved it.
It is.
That's not related to this, but
some of these are good. These are good.
Yeah.
And,
so these are all the tie-in issues that are exploring the different evil Batmen from these different universes gone wrong. And this one is kind of, I think, the ringleader of these evil Batman.
Yeah, and that's what I thought, because I've been reading all these, and at the end of each one of these things, the Bat Who Laughs, the one that's with the Joker, is the one coming over. They always have a thing where they interact then with the Bat Who Laughs, and he's like, "Hey, Barbados is getting us. We have a different fight, we have a greater fight," and stuff like that.
Barbados, the island nation.
What?
Continue.
Okay. Oh, the island nation. Okay, I read it as Barbados. I don't know.
Barbados Slim from Futurama.
You don't watch that. In any case, so I thought this would be something, different. I thought it'd be like, oh, maybe this actually isn't Bruce Wayne, but it's actually the Joker who won or something like that. And it's not, you know what I mean? Like all these are supposed to be Bruce Waynes, except for Man one, who is Bryce Wayne. That's why she's a girl. Don't ask. That's a really dumb one too. The best, in any case, this is not nearly as interesting. Basically, all of them are, you know, he has to do something that Bruce in the positive Earths wouldn't do, and that leads to him being extremely screwed up. This one, the only difference is that it basically goes through like Joker winning and him having some toxin that affects him long term and stuff like that, and he goes crazy and kills everybody, and yeah, and basically like I don't know, it's just not that interesting. The best one of these, if you want to check them out, is probably the Murder Machine. It probably also has the most bearing over the regular story because they go over what's going on with Cyborg and you know the background story on the Bruce Wayne that's supposedly focused on in that one is limited, while the current story of Dark Knight's Metal is pretty heavy in there.
Yeah.
But in any case, one thing I want to get out is that I read this Bats Out of Hell series, and I was pretty excited about it because, you know, when there's a big event like this, what I think as an outsider is that, oh, so that must mean they have a bunch of different series going on. All these tie-ins are going to be like important stories and everything. And these Bats Out of Hell things are about... Yeah. These Bats Out of Hell things are seemingly about all the Justice League, what they're doing while... can I talk about spoilers for Dark Knight's Metal or no?
Yeah, spoiler warning.
Warning.
Go right ahead.
So Dark Knight's Metal, you know, Superman went into that tuning fork thing, and that was apparently what he was not supposed to do, and Bruce Wayne said, I gave you the signal, and so he's trapped along with him, and now, you know, all the other parts of the Justice League, members of the Justice League, were doing other stuff, like I think Wonder Woman was going to the Rock of Eternity, Mr. Terrific and Green Lantern were in space somewhere. I don't know what they were doing, but they were all doing something. So I thought these Bats Out of Hell things were going to, you know, go over what they were doing and what different things, story things were going on for them to deal with this problem. No. Another spoiler warning, though, you shouldn't really care because nothing happens. Each one of these people is just basically taken out of where they are and brought to a different version of the Batcave, which is specifically designed by each Bruce Wayne to, you know, defeat each of these Justice Leagues. Kind of like, I need to read Tower of Babel, but kind of like the idea of, you know, him, you know, having ways to kill him.
Yeah, Batman having like counter
ways to defeat them.
Measures against every member of the Justice League.
Yeah, like the Flash shows up in a Batcave that's filled with quicksand. Oh, but yeah, they all that's the same thing, and they just all go through that, and it's like I don't want to read it if there are no consequences on the greater thing. And I guess Doug, you were telling me that that's kind of the idea, and that's why you weren't interested in these.
Yeah. Generally, like you're, as we said, pretty new to comics, and so like this is a new concept to you, but like I generally find tie-ins to be pretty throwaway. They're just kind of cash grabs. Like I was telling you, I guarantee pretty much none of the events of any of those books will be addressed. Like maybe some of the personalities and or background details of some of these Dark Knights characters will maybe be addressed in throwaway lines in Dark Knight's Metal, but in general, like what happens in these series probably won't have any bearing on what happens in Dark Knight's Metal.
So sad.
Like, yeah, I mean, like sometimes they're fun. Like I read one of the tie-in issues. I read Batman Lost,
good.
And that was fun. But it was also partially written
by Snyder,
the writer of the main event, and so it was kind of guaranteed to be a little bit more kind of relevant and or integral to the main story. Whereas he doesn't really have any involvement with, well, he probably has some sort of like overseer involvement with these, but like not in the minutia of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the long-term goal here is like, well, I mean, if you enjoy them, keep reading them, but I think we need to get you some more regular books so that you aren't quite so tempted by all these tie-ins.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, you're right. I do think
yeah.
that you should get the Murder Machine one. That's the one that
Yeah, you told me that.
That what's his name? Cyborg is in. I think that if anything has a bearing on what's going on, that one I think will.
Interesting. Yeah, did you have any other questions?
Oh, about
concerns?
what you read. I want to know. Okay, so just give me a rundown. What's Black Science? I'm really interested in what.
Black Science is a book at Image by Rick Remender and Matteo Scalera.
Ooh, wait. Remender.
Rick Remender of Uncanny X-Force, which you read and loved.
Read X-Force.
It is that kind of book. It is just like pedal to the metal, full throttle, like tension and action the whole time with all the best character work just interwoven into every action sequence, every character exchange. It is a book about a scientist and his team and his children who are basically being, through a fault in a machine that they built, being forcibly sent through different dimensions. They in the beginning of the series, the hook is that they have a pillar, this machine that is going to teleport them to their next dimension, and it's broken and they can't get back to their Earth, their dimension. So they have to. It automatically teleports them after a certain amount of time, and so they have to just kind of like keep themselves safe before it teleports them to the next place, so that they can stay with the pillar, so they can eventually fix it.
Yeah.
And it just kind of is propelling them through all these different dimensions, and they're always horribly dangerous, or there's something sinister happening where it separates them from the pillar, or some of them, or whatever.
Okay.
It's super, super great. It's also 33 issues in. This is issue number 33. So not something that you would be able to like easily jump into in like the near future, but definitely something that I would super recommend binge reading at some point if you want to read more Rick Remender stuff.
Okay.
One of my favorite writers. This is one of my favorite current series. It's a really, really great
DC,
book.
Marvel, I assume?
No, this is Image.
Image.
This is Image
So
Comics.
that's different than either of them?
Do you not know what Image is?
No.
Image Comics is kind of like, so there's the big two, which is Marvel and DC. Image Comics is kind of the third.
Okay.
There are tons and tons and tons of smaller comics publishers, but Image is like the closest thing to a big, like if there was a big three of comics, Image is the third publisher. They mostly don't publish superhero stuff. It's a lot of sci-fi, a lot of fantasy stuff, some crime comics, whatever. It's all creator-owned stuff, and it's they put out some really good books. This one in particular is a kind of a gem at Image.
Okay.
Very much recommend it. I did not know you didn't know what Image was.
Well, I mean,
I'm glad you know now.
That is how much of a fairly new person to comics I am, I guess.
Yeah, it definitely. You will read some Image stuff at some point.
Okay. I mean, I'm interested in this. This seems really, really cool, and I think it'd be a good thing to put me into more of a different universe, stuff like that. Now, does Image have a different universe? Like that they set up everything in, or is there stuff?
No, it's not like a shared universe. Okay. There are books that like spin off from each other, but they're not doing really the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like their kind of thing is that we're the place where like creators come to like own their own stuff and have their own kind of their own book and their own corner.
Okay.
Yep. Image stuff is largely pretty solid. Okay. Anything else before we move on from our new comics this week?
Well, I was gonna ask about Superman, where I guess we should move on soon, but like I don't know, I've just always seen in comics, I've never read a thing that's specifically Superman, and I'm interested. Could you just give me a quick rundown of how they write him? Because I've only seen him in relation to Batman, really, in comics. So how do you do that?
Like, are you just skeptical about how they make a series about him work?
How do you like challenge him usually without just going to Kryptonite all the time? And Red Sun.
You give him, like, that's the thing that people who don't like Superman always misunderstand about him, is it's not about whether or not Superman's going to die. It's about giving him other threats, emotional threats to his family, threats to the people he's protecting.
Okay. Is his family Lois Lane and kid or something?
Yep. The thing about Superman since Rebirth is that they brought back the Superman from before New 52. New 52 brought a new kind of version of Superman who was younger, was never in a relationship with Lois Lane, who didn't really have a whole lot of history with a lot of these characters, and was kind of an angsty shit, honestly. Apologies to anyone who liked the New 52 Superman. I know people out there, some people liked that version.
Well, you can like him.
It wasn't really for me. It wasn't the beacon of optimism and hope and positivity that like old Superman was. And so with Rebirth, they brought back, in weird, silly comics fashion, they brought back the old version of Superman. And so for a little while they killed off New 52 Superman, brought in old Superman, who along with him came his wife Lois Lane and their son John. And so this new / old version of Superman instantly, with Rebirth, all of a sudden had a wife and child who is like a preteen, which was an interesting transition, but they've done some really interesting things with it.
So
this arc is pretty okay. Like, this book isn't like an amazing tour de force or anything, but like, it's a good, entertaining Superman book. It's writing like a Superman that I like and enjoy. It's by Patrick Gleason and Peter Tomasi. The art largely sometimes done by Peter Tomasi, but by Patrick Gleason. Had that backwards. But this one is done by kind of a cavalcade of artists. They're on Apocalypse right now with Lex Luthor. It's fun. Okay. Like, they're doing a lot of New Gods stuff. But it's generally a fun series, if not like a super memorable one. I'm kind of waiting for the big, great Superman book since Rebirth started. But this one's
and then so New 52 Superman is basically Jason Todd's Superman.
I mean, in that he was angsty and a little bit controversial, sort of.
Okay, and that's the only character I know who was like the angsty Robin or whatever, right?
Yeah, he was still Superman, but like he also was like a little bit like they were trying to make him like edgier and more appealing to younger folks, which I don't know, didn't really work for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Yeah, but I like this new Superman book. Imperious Lex is the name of the current arc, which is silly and stupid, and I like it.
All right.
Like Imperious Rex. Just if you're stupid.
Well, Imperious Rex is, what is that?
Latin? I'm stupid, I guess.
What do you mean?
I don't know what that means. It's something about king.
So, I know that Tyrannosaurus Rex is like king of the Tyrannosaur. I don't know. Rey means king in Spanish. R-E-Y. That's close to Rex.
Imperious Rex is...
Are you looking it up?
An album by Sean Price.
Oh,
Google
that's it.
Help.
Okay. Sean Price.
That's definitely it. That's definitely
Is it S-E-A-N, Sean, or S-H-A-U-n?
I don't know. I closed the tab.
This is the conversation that the people want, by the way.
Yes, this is the conversation the people were asking for.
We should switch
all right.
Yeah, let's okay.
Yeah, let's talk some news.
Cheerio.
So since this is our first episode, we're usually going to talk about specifically this week's news. But since it's our first one, I thought we'd maybe cover some stuff just kind of from the month in general, and some newer stuff. Specifically, because I really wanted to talk about, you're not going to have a whole lot of context for this, I feel like, but this is like the big thing that happened in comics in the last month.
I'm ready.
And kind of in the last few years, that Brian Michael Bendis from Marvel, the kind of, in a lot of ways, the architect of pretty much everything Marvel has been doing and the modern age of Marvel for the last like 20 years, he left and signed an exclusive quote multi-year, multifaceted deal with DC Comics.
Now, is this a good thing, or is he good? Is he like,
I mean, if you're a fan of DC Comics, it's a good thing.
yeah.
But in general, I've found a lot of his recent stuff to be not super engaging to me on a personal level. So I think this is an exciting career move for him to give him some fresh new characters. He's been writing at Marvel for almost 20 years, like I said. So I think him having some fresh new characters to work with it could potentially be a really good career move for him and allow him to tell some really great new stories.
Now tell me,
if anyone,
Brian?
if anyone doesn't know, like you probably don't, what he has done, he's the person who created Ultimate Spider-Man, which kind of kicked off the Ultimate Universe, which is a huge influence on the movies. He is the person who created the character of Jessica Jones and wrote a really long run on Daredevil, and wrote a lot of material with Luke Cage, and so is kind of, in a lot of ways, the blueprint for what they're doing at Netflix. And he's done so much stuff and has kind of led the way at Marvel for a really long time. He wrote Avengers for a really long time and New Avengers. Like he's a super influential guy. He hasn't been a super huge seller in a while, but like he's always been a really huge name, and I think this is potentially really exciting for him in his career.
Okay. I mean, houses rarely have sellers anyways. To be a huge one is crazy.
Okie doke.
No, I was actually going to ask though. So, do you think is him leaving have any like? I know Marvel had their Marvel Legacy thing. Is that them trying to sort of give everybody a rundown of, this big guy left, so this is kind of like a rundown of our whole idea right now? Do you think that has any bearing on the appearance of that or anything like that?
I'm sorry. What specifically? How does that relate?
Marvel
to
Legacy
Bendis?
just came out, right? And
Yep.
that was a whole like, this is our universe, and this is everything.
It was kind of lead into their new big creative relaunch where they launched a whole bunch of new books. So it was kind of,
and do you think
hooks into a bunch of characters and their new directions?
And what I'm asking is like, do you think him leaving was like the impetus for them doing that?
No, this was actually I don't know how much they saw this coming, but it was pretty much everyone outside the comic book industry. This was a really surprising, sudden thing that DC just posted an image on Twitter all of a sudden that just says Brian Michael Bendis is coming over to DC, and everyone's like, what the hell is happening? Wow. It was like he's been there forever, and has really he wrote one story at DC in the last I don't know how many years, and hasn't really written anything else much outside of Marvel, as far as I really know.
Okay.
So it's a really big deal that he's leaving. He'll probably write something for DC, but it's also kind of assumed he might have a role in the movies as well because he's really big fan. friends. He's really big friends with Jeff Johns.
Okay.
Just in life.
Hopefully
So
that's a good thing.
probably part of his reason for moving over there. They call it multifaceted. But yeah,
Okay.
it's hard to tell what exactly this means until whatever he does kind of comes to fruition. But it's kind of a big landscape change that is good to keep an eye on, I think.
Cool.
Also in Marvel shakeup news, Axel Alonso, who was their editor-in-chief for a long time, left very suddenly. They said it was amicable, I guess, but there was kind of, I don't know if this is related to this, but when Bendis left, there was some weird rumblings around Twitter and whatnot from a bunch of creators that maybe he's not the last. That there might be a little bit of a wave of people kind of heading out. Whether that means from Marvel specifically or from big two publishers or what, I don't know. But we'll see. They brought on CB Cebulski, whose biggest credit to date is he edited or kind of headed up the Runaways Brian K. Vaughan series, which they just started a Hulu series based on that I haven't watched. But yeah, I don't really know much about him. Don't really have much to say about this development other than I know Axel Alonso was a really big name, and that's weird that he all of a sudden left right after Bendis did. He's not going to DC as far as I know, but very strange times.
Let me give you a prediction. Now, this is totally unfounded and uneducated prediction, but do you possibly think that Marvel, with their exciting and easily attainable cinematic universe, is trying to have more corporate overseeing of their sort of stories and everything like that, which might cause writers or people in the company to not like that direction?
I mean, this is, again, just like you said, all entirely speculation, but I can't imagine that the buyout by Disney has impacted Marvel's autonomy and
well, I'm just saying
on the publishing side super well.
I'm just saying within Marvel, like, to make their, like, theoretically from a business standpoint, if I had a successful movie universe, I would want to make my, comics to be more attainable and more, standardized amongst like normal people, to make it so it's easier for like people who aren't into comics to start getting into them. And maybe within Marvel, it might make it so that the writers don't have as much freedom. I don't know, maybe not even with Disney. I'm just saying like within Marvel,
I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. And like it's not like it's super different at DC. DC's been owned by Warner Brothers for forever. But like, yeah, I would imagine that pressure from the movie's wing of things probably isn't impacting it super well. There was I can't remember exactly who wrote this article, but I know there was a kind of investigative report after Bendis left that kind of spelled out some of the kind of rumblings about exactly why he might have left. It sounded like he was having a lot of friction he was getting a lot of pushback, possibly, again, this is all based on an article I can't remember, but he was getting pushback on him wanting to keep pushing forward their recent movement in terms of the diversity of their characters. He was the writer who introduced Miles Morales as Spider-Man. He introduced Jessica Jones. He has been writing an Iron Man comic in which recently a teenage black girl she's not calling herself Iron Man, but she's basically Iron Man right now. Iron. She's calling herself Iron
Okay.
Heart.
You told me about
She's
that.
basically Iron. She's Iron Man. She has a suit that looks exactly like
Okay,
Iron
but
Man.
how does that work? Because it's like, is Tony Stark gone and he left?
We don't need to get into a whole thing about that, but Tony Stark is currently in a coma. Although, as we saw in Legacy recently, he disappeared or something after being while he's in a coma. So, I mean, it's not a surprise he's going to come back at some point, which is probably why they're specifically not calling her Iron Man. But
Okay.
also concurrently, Doctor Doom actually calling himself Iron Man. Very strange. Comics are silly, and there are two versions of every character at Marvel right now. But which I think is a reason why they were, again, speculation, why they were giving him pushback on some of the diversity stuff he's trying to push. They want to kind of streamline a little bit. That this was the buzz from that article, and he got into some arguments with them about that. But
okay.
Yeah, again, all speculation. In other news, this week I don't think we need to get into huge details about this, but like it's an ongoing, we're in the midst of ongoing allegations of sexual misconduct from pretty much every side of the entertainment industry. It's a movement that's happening right now, and you have to kind of, you can't pick and choose what industries and what people get called out. But obviously comics not immune to this. This is a thing that's been happening forever. Everywhere.
Yeah, in any place where there's men.
Any place where there are people where there are men in power, this stuff has been going on. But the one of the big editors at DC, Eddie Berganza, it basically has been an open secret for a really long time that he's been making uncomfortable sexual advances towards women, uncomfortable comments.
Berganza?
Eddie Berganza. I'll copy you the article, or you should have the article link there. But he has, in spite of ongoing sexual allegations, as this BuzzFeed article, The Dark Side of DC Comics, lays out, in spite of the allegations that have been going on for a really long time, rose through the ranks at DC while that was all happening, and became the editor of the, quote, Superman group of comics. How editing works at big publishers, at Marvel and DC, editors get groups, kind of families of comics. He had the Superman family, which doesn't necessarily mean it's all Superman related characters. It's kind of what they consider to be that wing of the universe. So it encompasses not only Superman, but Supergirl and Wonder Woman, which they, for some,
that's weird though,
for whatever reason, they consider it to be similar, I think, from a genre sense more than anything, in terms of the type of superhero comic, as opposed to something more like Batman. But obviously the allegations of misconduct are the main focus here, but also part of this, as just salt on the wound here, it sounds like because of the sexual misconduct allegations, they had apparently, quote, quarantined his wing of publishing and kept as many women away from his wing of publishing as possible. And speculation, but I imagine that it is no coincidence that the current writer, last few writers of Wonder Woman and Supergirl, are all men and have been men for quite some time.
Interesting. Sounds like the wrong way.
Not that there haven't been women who have written those characters in the recent past, but it's just shitty to think about that they allowed this person to get into power, and that like because they let this shitty person
keep going,
like rise in the ranks, like that, like it also on top of that is taking jobs away from that should be given to female writers, and that sucks.
It seems like the absolute wrong way to deal with the situation.
Yeah,
easy way, but wrong way.
Like again, like not the main focus here, but like just makes it even worse.
Cringier.
Like, yeah. Yep. In related news, Ellen Page came out alleging that on the set of X3, that Brett Ratner had made really uncomfortable homophobic remarks to her.
Homophobic remarks to her?
Yep. This was apparently before she made a really long Facebook post about it, but it was apparently before she had come out, and he had made uncomfortable comments about her sexuality that I won't repeat here because they are really shitty.
Okay, I didn't even read that article.
In front of people.
Jeez. I didn't even know Ellen Page came out like that. That's cool.
She did a while back. But which is her own business.
Well, yeah.
But and then I think sometime after that, Anna Paquin, also from X-Men, came out and corroborated her story. And he apparently, Brett Ratner, I believe, had some sort of involvement in producing the Wonder Woman movies, and has in the very recent past been axed from that because they obviously want to distance themselves from him, which is for the best.
Wait, Anna Paquin, she was Rogue in those movies, right?
She was Rogue, and Ellen Page played Kitty Pryde.
I knew that.
Shadowcat.
I would love to read a Rogue, something that has Rogue in it, because I just don't understand her.
Like her powers, or like the character?
I guess like her powers, and I don't understand how she could be useful in a... I mean, I guess I can understand how she could be useful.
In the comics, to a limited degree, she retains some of the original powers that she had absorbed. I don't recall from who, but when she, aside from when she like individually touches someone and absorbs their powers, she can just fly and has super strength.
Oh, okay.
So she has powers outside of that, but then also, like in the movies, absorbs other mutants' powers and can use them.
Okay. Peter Petrelli.
We got a little bit of a tangent from the topic, but
Ratner's dumb.
Those guys sound like dirtbags and deserve to be gone. Oh, Eddie Berganza was suspended and then fired.
Good riddance.
And and Brett Ratner was taken off of Wonder Woman.
Okay.
This next story is weird, ongoing, and may or may not be a thing. It's not a rumor. It is a thing that is happening and ongoing, but may not actually end up happening. So earlier this month, Disney and Fox, according to a CNBC article, were in talks for Disney to acquire the Fox's 20th Century Fox's film wing. So this would not specifically include any of their television wings. So Fox News, Fox, the television channel Fox, not on the table, none of that, and none of the rest of their media empire on the table. Just their it was, I think, a little bit unclear if it was just the film properties or if it was the entire film wing. In some form, they were selling part of their business to Disney.
So you mean, Doug, we're not going to get Sean Hannity in the MCU anytime soon?
I mean, never say never, but
no Justin Bieber, please.
Let's hope not.
But maybe Deadpool.
Deadpool will slice Sean Hannity's head off. such catharsis. But yeah, very conflicted thoughts on this. There was an CNBC article saying that they were talks about acquiring them. Then there was an article saying that, oh no, this was like hours later, saying like, oh no, actually nope, that's dead, that's not happening. And then another article from CNBC that I have here, from not too much longer, that was saying like, we spoke a little bit too soon. Deal not actually necessarily dead, still kind of in ongoing talks about possibly Fox's properties being acquired.
I feel like we're trying to do a wrestling thing here. I'm a big wrestling fan, people, and this is like the same exact thing that was happening. Well, granted, it was kind of real, but back in the late 90s, WWF and WCW were the two main baddies, and WCW was losing a lot of money because they were kind of dumb, but they were like, oh, are they going to get bought up by these people, but then it turned out to be WWF. So I think.
Yeah. And this, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I shouldn't be of two minds about this. The nerd in me can't help but be excited about the prospect of Disney reacquiring the Marvel properties. Yeah. Like
Fantastic
X-Men
Four.
And specifically Fantastic Four. I've always kind of liked, I think that X-Men kind of breaks the fiction of the Marvel universe in a lot of ways, that I've kind of always appreciated that they're kind of a separate movie universe. But Fantastic Four is such, to me, like an integral part of the Marvel Comics universe, that like the idea of them being reintegrated, and to a degree the mutants being reintegrated or being integrated into the MCU, very exciting to me on like a base nerd level. But also like Disney has been buying media empires left and right. They have Star Wars and Marvel now. Like the idea of them buying 20th Century Fox's film properties is kind of terrifying on
business level.
Like that's there's such a thing as too big. And like,
well, think about it this way also. Imagine Logan coming out under Disney's umbrella. Right there, they're so obsessed with keeping things family friendly, they won't go above a PG-13.
And I'm not even talking about necessarily like Disney's approach to things. I've very much enjoyed the Marvel movies. Great. I'm talking specifically about from a monopoly standpoint.
Yes,
like it's not good for like
capitalism.
Like speaking even just from a capitalist point of view, like monopolies hurt the business sector. Like it's like hurt the economy. It hurts consumers, it hurts other businesses.
But I think it's specifically because it's a creative company, it hurts creativity a lot, because it's amazing that we have different people running different things, because if one person all ran the same thing, it's always going to be something, even a little bit similar,
Yep. So that's something that's again ongoing, may or may not be happening, but sounds like some people are in some form still talking about the possibility of it happening between Disney and Fox. Some guy is sending an email back and forth between the two of them. So we'll update if anything concrete happens on that. I'd be surprised if Fox ended up actually selling that stuff. I feel like they're just starting to kind of regain their footing on a lot of this X-Men stuff after some missteps. Like, I'd be surprised if they sold all that stuff off. But we'll update if anything happens. Did you hear about this? This is a rumor, but did you hear this rumor about Jake Gyllenhaal meeting with DC about possibly taking over the mantle, as if this is real, taking over the role of Batman in their movies?
That's funny, yeah. No, I did not hear about that, but that's like, I've been looking at this little note thing, and it's just, I'm just imagining Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler playing Bruce Wayne.
Like a very almost serial
I
killer.
love that. That'd be great. But I mean, he wouldn't be. What do you think? I mean, that's. I think that's pretty cool.
Jake Gyllenhaal is an accomplished, really capable actor. Like, he can pull off a lot. I have a little bit of trouble picturing him as Batman, but because Ben Affleck has been super, super dodgy whenever asked recently about whether or not he's sticking around to do much more in the DCU. Like, he may or may not be in this Batman solo movie they're making, or in whatever comes in after Justice League, like the sequel to that. Like, he might do another movie, he might not. We'll see. So they got to find someone new. Jake Gyllenhaal is a really interesting choice. I'd be very curious to see what that looks like. I was skeptical about Ben Affleck, but I was about to transition into I was skeptical about Ben Affleck and was proven wrong. I don't know that I was.
Yeah.
But no, he's fine.
Exactly, but that's the thing. He's fine.
It's not. I don't know that it's. I don't know that. I wouldn't say that the fault with his version of the character is his fault, but he's not I don't think he's personally doing the character wrong from a performance standpoint. But I think the problems there come a little bit more from a higher creative level.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, who knows? We can. Yeah.
But yeah, again, rumor. We'll update if that actually ends up happening. I guess I doubt it, but just thought that was
definitely.
It's just interesting picturing him as that character.
Picture Nightcrawler. Love it. Also, go see Nightcrawler, please, people.
Oh, Nightcrawler, great. Not related to the comic book character Nightcrawler, if anyone doesn't know what that movie is, but it's a movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal, where he stalks stalks basically scenes of accidents to get amateur footage to sell to news corporations, and he's basically a sociopath and gives just an unsettling performance. Great movie. Okay. Other movie news and actual announced movie news.
Now wait, before we go into this, I'm looking at this. Imagine, and I don't know if I told you about this, but imagine a movie about, regular guy just going to work every day, has a normal life, lives alone, apartment, something. This world that this guy lives in has this, random superhero that goes around vigilante style, and it ruins his day to work sometimes. It's just kind of like I don't know, he's going to work, there's a bunch of traffic because some buildings is right there, some explosion happened, and they're all going around. It's like, this guy's really, again, he's just going around, and then one day he figures out he is the duplicate of this superhero, just living his normal life. I just would love that. So yeah, that goes into this.
Yeah, so just to kind of make that make sense, I guess this one wasn't actually officially announced, but there was a Deadline article saying that that Fox is making a Multiple Man movie. For anyone who doesn't know who Multiple Man is, he is a mutant character from Marvel Comics. This movie is apparently a vehicle for James Franco, with Wonder Woman writer Alan Heinberg and Simon Kinberg, who's a name who's done some recent Fox Marvel stuff, Fox Mutants stuff, producing. Multiple Man is a character who he's a mutant. He creates duplicates of himself that he sends off to do tasks. He ran a detective agency for a while. He's He's great.
He's briefly in X3, right?
He was Topical, directed by Brett Ratner. But that movie's bad. But not the best version of that character. But yeah, I mean that's the base. If you saw him in that, like, kind of the idea, he like splits off into duplicates like that. I don't recall if he can recombine with them like that, like he did in that movie. But I'm not sure that seems like one of these movies that just will never happen. This and the next movie we're going to talk about, it'll probably never happen. They're just trying to squeeze every bit of money they can out of the one Marvel property they have, X-Men, or I guess they have Fantastic Four too. But like the one successful property that Fox has, like just mining it for every random character because they're running out of them.
So Morbius, though.
Man. I'm just imagining the trailer that eventually comes out. Like, do they call it Multiple Man? Do they call it Madrox? That's his name.
Duplicity.
James Mad. I don't remember what his first name is, but Madrox. How
about Cloney Baloney?
Perfect. Ship it. Cloney Baloney coming this Christmas, starring James Franco.
I'd watch it.
Speaking of, a trailer for The Disaster Artist played before Killing of a Sacred Deer today.
Oh, yeah.
And
we got that too.
That movie looks silly. I need to show my girlfriend The Room sometime. It. Oh, what a masterpiece. In related weird spin-off superhero movie news, Sony, in their confusing, ever-expanding effort to also squeeze as many Marvel movies as they can out of their one Marvel property, Spider-Man, is making a Morbius, the Living Vampire movie, which they actually, I swear to God, announced.
That's wait.
I'm looking at a Hollywood Reporter article whose title is Spider-Man spin-off, Morbius, the Living Vampire movie in the works with Power Rangers producers. Writers. Power Rangers writers. So much
That's
better.
Worse. Oh, God.
But, like, Morbius, the Living Vampire is a villain from the Spider-Man series. He's a vampire.
So weird.
As this article, I believe, points out. Actually, this is not this article, but it was like, yes, here it is. Morbius. This just gives you an idea of the caliber of character we're dealing with here, and I like seeing Morbius in the background of a panel or something, but Morbius was created by writer Roy Thomas and artist Gil Kane, and first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 101, the first issue not written by Spider-Man co-creator Stan Lee. Which is just a funny bit of, granted, Roy Thomas, a comics legend, but the idea that it's basically the first major character created after Stan Lee stopped writing Spider-Man is interesting. But,
Weird.
He's a vampire. He suffers from a rare blood disease, and attempted to cure himself. He became afflicted with a condition that was a form of vampirism, the thirst for blood, along with fangs and super strength, the classic vampire power of super strength. He's like at times he's an anti-hero, which will probably be the angle they'll take with this movie if it's a movie about Morbius the Living Vampire.
Has to be, right?
Yeah. Speaking of which, I assume if this movie ever comes out, or at least in the time until it eventually gets canceled, people will probably continue to ask Sony, are all of these Spider-Man spin-off movies you keep announcing in the MCU? And they'll probably say Yes, or be incredibly dodgy about it, just like they were about the Venom movie they announced a while back.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also, at the same time, people will ask Marvel and Kevin Feige, and they'll say, in no way are those movies part of our universe, and it will be increasingly uncomfortable. Were you following that when that was happening?
No, I did not. Because I mean, I maybe a little bit. I'm not sure.
So Sony announced they were doing a Venom movie a while back, and they asked Amy Pascal, who is at Sony and kind of in charge of their the Spider-Man universe at Sony, is this part of the Marvel universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And she said, like, oh, absolutely it is. And then they asked Kevin Feige, and he's like, I don't know where you're getting that information. That sounds wrong. And then there was a really uncomfortable interview where they were in the same room.
Oh, no.
And Amy Pascal is, I swear to God, trying to imply, without directly saying, that their movies are, in a sense, part of the universe, while also, like, he's sitting next to her and she can't say it. It's so uncomfortable. It's like, it feels like a Curb Your Enthusiasm bit. Like,
have you seen that show? Have you watched that show?
I've watched bits of it. It very much feels like a scenario that would happen in that show.
Okay,
where,
I'll have to
like,
look that up.
Like, it's just so uncomfortable and awkward and ridiculous. And eventually someone's going to bring the hammer down on them for implying that stuff, because Marvel does not, like, no one can stop them. All Marvel can do is eventually cut them off and say, nope, Spider-Man's not part of our universe anymore. But, like, the idea of a cinematic universe is so, like, undefined, and, like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, they can say it's part of this other universe as much as they want. Like, it doesn't, like, like, as long as they're not profiting off of their movies, like, I mean, in a sense they are indirectly, but, like, I can claim whatever I want about my movies if I, like, people put weird Easter eggs into other movie franchises that they don't own all the time. Like,
well, you know what actually reminds me of it? So I'm sorry to cut you off. It was really interesting because I remember Fox. Just so everyone knows, my job is as a media buyer. So I buy commercials, like commercial space from television stations. So Fox came in and they show us all these cool, like, oh, these are our new Prime shows and everything like that. And they come in and they have this whole video set up, and the video specifically talks about this new show, The Gifted, which I have absolutely no interest in seeing, but, you know, family is the true power, so that's that.
It's the new X-Men show from Bryan Singer.
Yeah. In any case, they try so hard to say every way, like, this is part of an expanding Marvel universe, but they don't say this is directly part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they say, like, what were the words? It was like part of Marvel's great roster of franchises or something like that. Something is, like, so, like, they could advertise,
like, deliberately misleading.
Exactly, deliberately misleading to people who, in my business, who are mostly women in their 40s to 60s or so, who, you know, wouldn't care to know any more about it than usual. But, you know, by hearing that would think, oh, that's cool. A lot of people from those movies would probably go watch that show. Then I should buy ad space in it. So it's just really funny to me. Very, very relevant for sure.
Oh, kind of an interesting insider perspective there.
Yeah, there you go. That's my use.
So yeah, both those movies, Morbius, The Living Vampire, and this possible James Franco multiple man movie, just, guys, what are you doing?
They are trying to catch the money back,
desperate.
You know. They need
desperate. Just
hitch
your wagon to that money train.
Makes the world go round, Doug.
Yeah, no, I totally get why they're doing it. It just, from the outside, looks ridiculous.
Absurd. Yes,
it looked, yeah. But anyway, yeah, we'll see if either of those ever ends up happening. I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that Venom movie even ever comes out.
I've always been interested in
I've
Venom.
been proven wrong. Cool. Last bit of real news this week. Pretty vague. Marvel teased that they're going to have some sort of big wedding happening in their comics sometime in the next year. Yeah, they sent out a save the date image for June 20th, 2018.
So who's gay in Marvel? I saw this picture and I'm wondering, because I don't, who is it?
What are you talking about?
There's one gay couple here.
Yeah, well, it's also pictures of all the other couples.
But I know mostly who they are, and that's the only one.
You just don't know who those characters are?
Yeah, they seem like random dudes, and every other one seemed...
I don't recall. They had a big wedding event for them a couple years ago, and I don't recall what their names are, honestly. That was a thing. It was a similar, like, we're having a big wedding event thing for them a few years back. I think they're X-Men characters. Is that Star Fox? Unfortunately named Star. No,
why is Star Fox an unfortunate name?
It might not be. I think I'm confusing him with a similar character. Maybe not. I don't remember. Anyways,
North Star and Kyle Janadu.
North Star. Okay, there was Star in his name. Yeah, I don't really know anything about either of those characters. But yeah, they had a similar wedding event for them a few years ago. On this teaser image, we got Black Panther and Storm. Wedding has been erased, pretty much, not officially, but they split them up and have yet to pretty much even reference their relationship. We have Cyclops and Jean Grey, whose relationship pretty much been erased as they're both currently dead. We have Ant-Man and the Wasp on here. He's in his yellow jacket look here, which is why you probably wouldn't recognize him. The best and most romantic of comic book romances. Hank Pym slapped his wife, and is kind of one of the biggest character things that has ever happened to him, that he beat his wife. Wonderful.
That's
we've got
fun.
The only I guess we've got Reed Richards and Sue Storm, Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, and on here, and then we have North Star, and I don't remember what you said the name of his.
One of these things is not like the other.
I think him and those two and the Reed Richards Sue Storm thing are the only ones that are still standing marriages. I don't recall what the status of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne are right now, but I don't think they're married. I would be surprised if someone had allowed that to happen in editorial. But yeah, someone's getting married. Any predictions? Who would you guess as an outsider, just with a very base knowledge of the characters Marvel has? Who could get married? Jack?
North Star.
Again, to someone else?
No, North Star. Oh, you think he's already been married? Sorry.
No, they I just told you that. They just had a wedding event for them recently, sometime last few years.
Oh.
No, but who else could get married, I'm asking, at Marvel?
Are none of the... Okay, because I feel like Jean Grey and Scott and then Sue Storm and Reed Richards, haven't they been couples like this entire time?
Cyclops and Jean Grey, I don't know that they... I mean, they're both dead right now. They're bringing Jean Grey back sometime in the relatively near future, but also I don't recall what their relationship status was before they died.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were together or not.
So I guess my guess is Reed Richards and Sue Storm. I guess so.
No, it's not. You're not guessing from these images. These are notable weddings from the past.
Oh. Wait, where's the list?
These are like famous weddings from the history of Marvel.
Okay, that's what I was. Okay, that's what I was confused.
Okay, that's the bit you're missing. Okay, I was confused what you were. Why you guessed North Star?
Okay, let's see here. So I'm just guessing random characters.
Yeah, who does Marvel have? I don't know. Take a stab in the dark.
Okay.
Who could get married? Who's a couple at Marvel who you think isn't married?
God. I think that gosh. Just anybody like are they
Here, I'll give a guess. If assuming they bring Tony Stark back from being in a coma, maybe he'll be changed by the experience and he'll finally propose to Pepper Potts. That's my guess.
Oh, that's cool.
Stab in the dark, completely unbacked up by any information, any evidence, but it's a thing I could see them doing after like Pepper Potts's profile being raised kind of by being in the movies a bunch. Maybe they'll finally have them tie the knot.
Maybe. Okay, I'm gonna say it's gonna be Thor's dead, right now.
Thor, I think, he's been back for a little bit. He's not wielding the hammer currently, or at least wasn't recently. He might have gotten it back really recently. I don't know. I haven't been reading Thor.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna guess.
I don't think. Yeah.
I'm gonna guess. Someone that I know. Who do I know? I'm gonna guess. Wolverine.
Okay.
And
you got one.
And
you got one character. Beast. Wolverine and Beast are getting married.
No, Nightcrawler. Since we were talking about him.
That would be... I want to see that. I want to see the Wolverine Nightcrawler Odd Couple book where, Wolverine's the slovenly drunk and Nightcrawler is the, like, peckish neat freak. And he's teleporting around cleaning things up while Wolverine's making a mess. That's it. We solved it.
Okay, that's it.
Perfect. We did it. Problem solved. Moving on. All right. So let's talk about some new media outside of our current books here. First off, we got new comics coming out next week. Notable stuff. There's always a bunch of stuff coming out, but this is maybe a spot for some of the more interesting and or anticipated stuff. We've got the new issue of Doom Patrol coming out.
Yeah, which I'm so excited
what number it is.
Just so everyone knows, Doom Patrol was... I read Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol out of the suggestion from Doug, and it's probably an instrumental part in why I'm so interested in comics and reading it in general, because it's just... I love it. It's so great. And I'm rereading it. I'm halfway through it now, so...
Doom Patrol kind of ever championing surrealism in superhero comics, the comedy of the absurd. But we're really big fans of Gerard Way and Nick Harrington's current series, and it has been a while since an issue has come out. So it's kind of exciting for us that a new issue of that is coming out. We're finally kind of getting to the team being together now as a team. And I am pumped for that. It's also and the next book I'm going to mention are going to be our shared books that we're going to talk in detail about next week. The other book that's coming out, long anticipated, much longer than it should have been, it sounds like, from a publishing perspective. Doomsday Clock. Jeff Johns finally following up on the threads he seeded in DC Universe Rebirth, in which he teased the integration, or at least the appearance of the Watchmen characters into the DC Universe.
I mean, it was a really random thing too, right?
It makes sense from a creative perspective in that Rebirth was all about the reintegration of this idea of this sense of hope and optimism back into the DC universe after the New 52, really imbuing DC with this kind of sense of cynicism that made a lot of their books kind of unpleasant to read, I felt. That was at least the spirit that he said he was trying to put into the universe. And so it makes sense that if he's implying someone was altering the DC universe to make it more cynical, from a weird meta perspective, it makes so much metaphorical sense that the source of comics at DC being unnecessarily dark, that source would be Watchmen, and specifically Dr. Manhattan.
I'm excited. I should read that novel again.
Very pumped. Yeah, I might read DC Universe Rebirth again in anticipation. It's been a while, because since he did that big DC Universe Rebirth book, he went off to run the movie wing of DC, and it's been kind of implied that was maybe why he wasn't able to follow up on this as quickly as possible. But we're finally getting it. Hopefully it will have been worth the wait. I'm incredibly excited to see Jeff Johns address Watchmen characters and the idea of Superman and other DC characters interacting with Dr. Manhattan possibly Rorschach or the comedian whose button appeared in DC Universe Rebirth, and the crossover that happened in between the button.
Yeah, I just feel like it could be great. I just hope it's not, it's such a opportunity to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not as good as it could be. Yeah, underwhelming. Underwhelming. That's the word.
It's always like, you invoke Watchmen, you are invoking some really high standards for the quality of your story, and if you drop the ball on that, that's gonna be a big disappointment. Jeff Johns, if anyone else was making that kind of a bold claim, I probably wouldn't take it seriously. I would be very skeptical. Jeff Johns has the chops to make this work.
Okay.
It has yet to be seen, as it was really only a tease at the end of Rebirth, but I'm very excited to see what he has to say about it. Jeff Johns has a really interesting history of integrating kind of meta creative level ideas about the movements in comics and about the spirit of comics and how it's changed over time, into his stories, using characters as kind of ciphers for those ideas. If you ever want to read a really good crossover event by him, Infinite Crisis.
Oh yeah. I have the book.
Is a big one of the big DC crises.
Yeah.
Continuity resetting events.
I actually have a book of apparently that main arc of Infinite Crisis. I bought it.
Of Infinite Crisis?
Yeah.
You bought Infinite Crisis?
I bought it before I knew anything about comics at all, because I remember you telling me that in it, like,
Are you talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, or are you talking about Infinite Crisis?
I got Infinite Crisis, but I might have been wanting to get Crisis on Infinite, because whichever one is where Superboy.
That is Infinite Crisis.
Okay, I got the right one then, but I tried to look for that because I thought that was such a cool idea to punch he
punches reality.
Yeah.
He resets reality by punching it.
I love that, and I wanted to read it, but I started reading it, I was like, I don't know at all what's going on at all.
Yeah, now that you've it would probably make a lot more sense to you if you read Crisis on Infinite Earths first.
Yeah.
Because it's very much Jeff Johns' kind of love letter to that, / also, like I'm saying, a weird kind of metatextual critique of how that event and 80s comics in general has affected the tenor of comics since. He brings back some golden age versions of characters in a way that comments on where the characters ended up since then. It's really interesting in a way that mirrors a lot of what it seems like he wants to do with the Watchmen characters, in how he feels Watchmen as on a creative level has impacted negatively the tenor of superhero comics since, as everyone tries to copy Watchmen in ways that really don't work.
Yeah.
Because Watchmen is its own thing, and to try to bring the spirit of Watchmen into other books
Feels wrong.
Is destined to fail in ways that make comics super cynical and frustrating when they're constantly pointing out the flaws of superhero comics in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested to see him address Watchmen in this book. That's coming out on Wednesday. Also releasing this week, released this weekend. We have two big comics related media things released. We had The Punisher and we had Justice League. Both came out this weekend. Are you excited for either of those? You're gonna...
Well, okay. I'm excited for Punisher a lot, but I have gotten off the train of watching Daredevil season 2, which obviously is very heavily...
I also fell off in the last few episodes of Daredevil. Second half of that season, not nearly as strong as the first half.
Well, it's not that it's bad. It's just like, I don't know. It's hard for me to be like, oh, I'm going to need to watch the next one now.
It's just not nearly as compelling as the first half of that season with Punisher was, which is
even the first season in general, I think.
Yeah, it's... Although some of that stuff with the Punisher was some of the best stuff they've done in that show.
No, don't get me wrong.
But that's also why I'm pretty excited for Punisher. I've kind of fallen off a little bit since I fell off of Daredevil on these Netflix Marvel shows. I haven't watched. I heard horrible things about Iron Fist, so I didn't watch it because I just didn't feel like putting a bunch of time into something that was going to end up sucking. And because of that, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to jump into Defenders, although I probably will at some point. I heard kind of like okay things about it. But Punisher seems like it's pretty separate from all that and supposedly is really interesting. So I'm probably going to give that a watch this week sometime.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm excited for it. I just need to finish the thing. It shouldn't be that hard. I think I have like 3-4 more episodes of Daredevil season 2 and then just right into Punisher should be fine. Ugh. But yeah, then we got Justice League that just dropped as well.
Yep.
Just so everyone knows, neither Doug nor I have seen it, but I did recently because I needed to watch Batman v Superman to, because I felt like, there's this curiosity, even though it doesn't get the best rap. So I watched it, and the only stream I could find was the 3-hour Ultimate Edition, which I kind of wish I didn't have to watch the 3-hour Ultimate Edition, but, there are things to be said about it. I don't think it was all that they should do, which, you could blame Warner Brothers, you could blame so many different people, Zack Snyder. If Scott
Very
Snyder
different feelings on Scott Snyder versus Zack Snyder.
But I just, there are a lot of issues. I think there are some good things. I think there are some good tonal things in it. There are some really cool shots, as Zack Snyder always has very good shots. Sometimes
Zack Snyder, I maintain Zack Snyder should have always just stayed a director of photography. He makes breathtaking moments visually, and then someone says something, and just takes a big old steaming kind of dookie on the whole moment. But
even so, he sometimes makes shots and they don't actually make sense in the story as well. For example, I was just reading something someone put together. They did the math on how long it would actually take Joker to set up that huge array of knives and stuff in Suicide Squad and lay down in it.
I mean, that wasn't Zack Snyder, but he did kind of set the...
I thought you did the photography.
David.
No?
Zack Snyder? No.
Never mind.
No, he set the general tenor for the DCE extended universe, which I found out recently is not an official Warner Brothers term. Some journalist made that up at some point. But he set the tone, and he, I think, has been kind of generally, possibly like giving general creative direction, but like he didn't direct that.
Okay, never mind. I'm wrong. Sorry.
That nor Wonder Woman. He did direct Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm super curious about Justice League as a fan of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
I've been super let down by most of their movies, other than Wonder Woman, which was fun, but so it feels like it was such a departure tonally from what Zack Snyder's movies are that I don't know that
this is gonna. I carry on.
Like it's gonna and it's too soon for them to have integrated any of the feedback from that movie into this, other than last minute reshoots by Joss Whedon.
Yeah, what was that? Like they reshot like 20% of the movie or something like that?
They reshot a lot of the movie. The movie was probably going to go into reshoots anyway. Zack Snyder stepped aside from Justice League for personal issues. Joss Whedon stepped in to do the reshoots. It's unclear exactly how much involvement he had in the actual creative direction of those reshoots, but he did reshoot part of that movie.
But yeah, I'm gonna want to see it probably at a cheapo theater though. I can't pay $20 here in LA to see a movie that I'm gonna be
I might see
middling
it.
about.
I might not. Justice League. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Cool. All right. We talked about Batman v Superman, which was part of our next section on old media, natural transition.
Oh yeah, this is stuff that we are reading. Experiencing.
So you watched that. I'm as my side comic, I'm currently reading 52, which is a follow-up series to Jeff Johns' Infinite Crisis. It takes place DC's continuity after Infinite Crisis jumped forward a year, and this book was a weekly series that DC did. It was one issue a week for 1 year that covered in kind of real time the missing year in DC's continuity, and it was a year.
You were telling me about this.
It is a year in which the Trinity, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are for various reasons not active as those characters. And
it's, what do you think about it? Is it should I read it? I don't know.
It's so cool? Great. It's not something I think you'd be able to jump into without reading a few things first. It's heavily about it's about all kind of, what's great about it is it's kind of about all of the characters around Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. It's about all of the smaller characters in the universe and what's going on with them, and tells this big sprawling story that is kind of about the universe as a whole. If you've ever wanted that kind of classic idea of the shared universe, long running story, this idea of DC as this shared epic that goes on forever, like this is the book that I think to date in my comics reading experience has best captured that idea. It's telling like 5 different stories about a number of different characters that are all interwoven together into this larger story, and it goes all over the DC universe, and it's so entertaining. And you really do, like, I'm not reading it in the way in which it was originally released, which is one a week that tells that week in DC. But, like, you really do, even reading it, kind of binge reading it, you do get this real sense of the progression of time in the series and the progression of continuity in the DC universe. And it's really great. It was written kind of writer's room style by Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, who I don't think you've read any of his stuff, but he's great, and Mark Waid, also great. 4 of the best writers at DC at the time.
Wow.
Art breakdowns by Keith Giffen, so he didn't do all of the art, but he laid out all the panels, like how they should look, and then other artists came in and did each issue. It's really great. I'm on week 22. Each issue is a week. And some great stuff is happening. I won't spoil it for anyone who wants to go back and read it. It's kind of an undertaking. It's 52 issues. I have a giant volume 1, which is the first 26. Can't recommend it enough, but you have to read like Crisis on Infinite Earths, Identity Crisis,
Infinite Crisis.
and Infinite Crisis kind of before you'll pick up a lot of the stuff in this. But
okay. Well, we were talking about that earlier. I might go back and
that's a road I wanna send you down at some point. But
send me down it.
Yeah, we'll get you started on that someday. At least you should read from a foundational perspective. Read
Cool.
read Crisis on Infinite Earths at some point. It's pretty seminal DC event series.
Okay. And then my old comics thing. Well, I mean, I read this already because, just so everyone knows, my sort of birth into this role has been reading Scott Snyder's run on Batman starting in 2011, I think it was. And I've just been straight up binging it. And I got through so much. Doug saw how much I've read in like such a short amount of time. It was all of Death of the Family and into...
You had already read Court of Owls previously.
I had already read Court of Owls, but then I went into Death of the Family, and then all throughout Zero Year, and then all that super heavy Bloom, Jim Gordon stuff, and it was all just so great. And it was basically making it so I could catch up to reading Dark Knight's Metal, because, you know, reading this big event, something like this, is a very novel thing to me, which is why I got partially into the trap of reading all these damn tie-ins. In any case, this run, it's just so... It really is cool to see this huge, sprawling story of this and study of the character and just creating this really, I don't know, cool universe. I mean, I know this is just old news for everybody who does this, but it's just really, really different for someone like me coming into it and seeing like Jim Gordon pick up the man. By the way, I'm spoiling this. It's like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah,
this stuff happened.
His run ended like a year or two ago. So yeah, go ahead and spoil away.
Jim Gordon taking up that and like having like, I guess I understand it was kind of a Batman died, but Batman didn't die. As you were reading it might have seemed like that, but it just, them trying to keep this mantle running with Jim Gordon is just so interesting. And then you get his internal monologue and all his, you know, fears and anxiety, like going through this. You don't get that with Bruce Wayne because, you know, he's just Batman. You just see it like him. But when you see Jim Gordon in there, it's like, am I doing this right? What am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just so cool to see that, especially when he comes up into contact with Bloom, who, granted, he doesn't end up actually, you know, overcoming. But, hey, he survived. That's something. It was just a really cool thing to do, and it really nailed in Scott Snyder's writing ability for me.
I hadn't heard who Scott Snyder was. He had been kicking around writing some Batman and DC stuff before the New 52, but when he jumped on the main Batman book, when the New 52 started, I had no experience with him. I heard it was good. Jumped on like bought the my first issue that I bought was like number 3. I borrowed and read the first couple, but like, God, that series was good. It's just like the best encapsulation of all of the greatest ideas about like who Batman is and what he means to this universe. And like, I really think his run on Batman is going to go down as one of the all-time greats, which is like, it's always too soon to say that something really recent is a classic, but Scott Snyder's Batman is, I can't call it anything other than a classic. Like, it's...
Yeah. And his bizarro version, Snott Scyder, worst
Snott Scyder?
You said Snott, and
Did
then
I?
you corrected yourself. So I figured I'd jump on that.
Did I say Snott? Snott Snyder?
No, you said Scott Snyder. It is hard to say like 5 times fast. You know, Scott Snyder.
I like
Snyder,
Snott Scyder.
Right? Isn't that like a good Bizarro name? You know,
Snott Scyder.
I gotta read a Bizarro
Dark Multiverse.
By the way,
you gotta read what?
Bizarro something.
Just something with Bizarro in it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
I don't know that I've ever read something that had Bizarro heavily in it. There's one of the stories in Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman has Bizarro in it, and that's pretty great.
Okay.
But, that's really the only thing that's coming to mind at the moment. I've seen him in random appearances, but anyway,
Okay.
yeah. So that's the kind of older stuff we've been going back to this week that we've been enjoying, and we'll probably update, or I'll probably update on as I progress through 52. I'm gonna be reading it for a little bit.
Yeah. For me,
you're done with Snyder's Batman, but
so I'm also reading. This wasn't really the right. Well, I wanted to go over the Batman thing because that's what led me into this whole thing. But I am also reading Why the Last Man, which I've been reading for so long, but I'm just gonna try and focus myself into it.
Okay.
And,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. We're making a pact here.
This is the home.
I want to hear you talk about Why the Last Man on the show.
I would love to.
I'm going to use this public outlet to shame you on not reading Why the Last Man. Read Why the Last Man.
It'll still be better than the Game
or
of Thrones.
I will Game of Thrones style chant shame at you. I need like a bell or something. Don't they have bells?
I think it was a bell.
Shame. Read Why the Last Man.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, you brought it up.
I did.
Cool. So that's probably about gonna do it for this week. If you made it this far all the way to the end here, thank you so much for listening. We're a brand new podcast, so we're kind of just assuming we're yelling into the void here, at least in the beginning. If anyone is listening to us, please do us a favor, give us a star rating on iTunes or whatever your podcast app of choice is. It really helps us out. It's the main way which the all-powerful internet algorithms help surface content to new listeners. So that really helps us find an audience if you can give us a star rating. And subscribe to this feed. This isn't a one-off. We're going to be doing more of these. So if you want to hear more of us talking about comics and comics movies and stuff, subscribe to our feed.
Yeah.
And if you enjoyed what you heard, let someone know about us. Word of mouth is always helpful. And we are definitely talking to you, the one guy
or gal
who gave us a chance. Yes, you're right. I shouldn't be specific. Everyone is welcome here. And
then we're gonna have a Twitter. I guess I haven't set it up. I'm gonna set it up literally tonight. So by the time anybody sees this one,
there is a theoretical metaphysical idea of a Twitter.
Yes,
for us
at
that exists.
Comics Covered, spelled as you would if you have trouble spelling.
Yep.
Put it into a Microsoft thing, whatever. At Comics Covered, tell us, if there's something, if you made it this far and there's something that we're doing absolutely wrong, please tell us. Please tell us. And if we're doing something right, I guess you can tell us that too. That'd be great.
Give us feedback if you liked something, if you didn't like something. Give us suggestions on things you'd like to hear us talk about. Give us suggestions about things you'd like us to incorporate into the podcast. We're always open to suggestions. We want to be connected to whatever community ends up organizing around this, if any.
Yes, and we're still figuring out the best release schedule as well, but the tentative plan is to have these released on Sundays. Sunday.
Sunday.
Super slam. Sorry. So, check back
do that
and keep an eye out.
Yeah, so that's probably going to about do it. I'm Doug.
I'm Jack. No, I'm Jack.
You sounded unsure. About
well, I mean, who is sure of who they are in the world,
Oh boy. All right, let's end on that note. That happy note. This has been Comics Covered.
Cheerio.
Thank you so much for listening.